Hello children, this is the continuation of lecture video 1. Okay, so in this we will discuss about the effects of simultaneous change in demand and supply. Okay, and there are some special cases. Okay, so let us start our discussion with the first topic, that is effects of simultaneous changes in demand and supply. So what happens when the demand and supply they change simultaneously? Okay, so let us see the first condition, that when the demand and supply they increase with the same magnitude. Okay, let us suppose that if demand is increased by 1% and supply is also increased by 1%. Okay, so at this point of time, the price will remain unchanged. Okay, but the equilibrium quantity will increase. As you can see it out here, the both demand, okay, and supply, they are increasing. Okay, so D1 is the initial demand curve. Okay, and now it has been shifted to D. Okay, so demand is shifting from D1 to D. Okay, and similarly this supply is also increasing from S1 to S. So at this point of time, what happens is that the price will remain constant. Okay, but the quantity to be supplied is increased. Okay, so now let us see the case number 2. If increase in demand is of greater magnitude, okay, than the increase in supply, so both the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity will increase. So if the demand is increased by, let us suppose, 2% and the supply is increased by 1%. So here we can see that the magnitude of change in demand is higher than the change in supply, isn't it? So at this point of time, both equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity will increase. So here you can see out here. Okay, so now the price has been increased from 50 to 75, as you can see it out here. Okay, and the equilibrium quantity is also shifting from E to E1. So at this point of time, we can see that the demand, okay, this demand is changing from D1 to D2. Okay, and the supply is also increasing from S1 to S2. Okay, but you can see that the magnitude of the change in demand is higher than the change in supply. So at this point of time, what happens is that both equilibrium price as well as the equilibrium quantity changes. Now, if increase in supply is of greater magnitude than the increase in demand, equilibrium price will fall, but equilibrium quantity will increase. So it is this point number 3 is just like point number 2, but it is just the opposite of it. Okay, so in point number 2, the magnitude of change in demand was greater than the uh, magnitude of change in supply. Okay, but in point number 3, the magnitude of change in supply is greater than the magnitude of change in demand. So at this point of time, what happens is this. Okay, now you can see it out here. Okay, let us suppose that this is your initial demand. Now it is shifting towards the right hand side. Okay, so it is increasing. Okay, but your supply is also increasing, isn't it? So at this point of time, what happens is that the price, okay, the price will fall down. The price will fall down, but the quantity will increase. As you can see it out here, see, the price is falling. It is falling from P to P dash. Okay, the price is falling. The quantity to be supplied is increased. It is obvious that when the price decreases, quantity demanded increases, isn't it? I hope you know this by the law of demand, isn't it? So these are the three different cases when uh, the change in demand and supply are of simultaneous in nature. Okay, so when they change simultaneously, okay, both the demand and supply is changing. Now let us see what are some special cases of equilibrium. Okay, now let us see in the first one, that is the perfectly elastic and perfectly inelastic demand curve. Okay, let us see from the perspective of demand curve. After that, we will move on to the supply curve. Okay, now in case of perfectly elastic demand curve, now whenever we talk about perfectly elastic demand curve, we are actually referring to a situation in which the demand curve is parallel to x-axis. Okay, so now a change in supply, whether the change can be positive, that is increase, or negative, that is decrease, okay, results in a change in equilibrium quantity, but the equilibrium price remains constant. So you can see it out here in this figure. This is your demand curve, okay, dd, okay, which is parallel to your x-axis. This is your x-axis, and this dd is parallel to, I mean, the demand curve is parallel to x-axis. Okay, so now here, if the supply is changing, okay, the price will remain constant, but the quantity demanded will change. Okay, only in case of perfectly elastic demand curve. Okay, now in case of a perfectly inelastic demand curve, that is the in case of this perfectly elastic demand curve, this dd, that is the demand curve, will be now parallel to y-axis. Now in case of perfectly elastic demand curve, your demand curve will be parallel to x-axis, but in case of perfectly inelastic situation, your demand curve will be parallel to y-axis. Okay, so at this point of time, what happens is that when there is change, okay, when there is change in the supply, be it increase or decrease, the quantity demanded or supplied, I mean the equilibrium quantity, it will remain same, but the price will change. Okay, if the supply increases, price also increases. Okay, if the supply decreases, price also decreases. Okay, now in case of perfectly elastic and perfectly inelastic supply curve, now there are two situations, that is perfectly elastic and perfectly inelastic supply curve. Now when supply curve is perfectly elastic, okay, so perfectly elastic situation is a situation in which the supply curve or both this demand curve will be parallel to x-axis. Okay, so now a change in demand, that is increase or decrease, results in a change in equilibrium quantity, but the equilibrium price remains constant. Okay, so out here, when there is change in the demand, okay, now let us suppose that this is your initial demand curve, okay, d, okay, dd, and this d1 is a new demand curve. Okay, so now when the demand it increases, quantity also increases, but the price will remain constant. Okay, now let us talk about perfectly inelastic supply curve. Now when the supply curve is perfectly inelastic, okay, that is the supply curve will be parallel to y-axis. Okay, so at this point of time, any change in the demand, okay, any change in demand will change in the equilibrium price, but the quantity remains same. Okay, quantity, it remains same, but the price will change. So the situations, these situations, okay, this some special cases of equilibrium, these cases are quite similar to each other. Okay, but only from the perspective of demand and supply. Okay, Now, what are the importance of time element in determination of price in a competitive market? The importance of time element in determination of price in a competitive market is of high importance because the time factor, okay, the time factor, it determines the price of different commodities to be sold in a market. Now, if a market is of very short period, okay, then at that point of time, the uh, supply will be fixed. Okay, the supply of goods to be sold is fixed. I mean, the output, it cannot be increased. Okay, but in the short period, long period, and the very long period, we can change the output by changing the uh, variable factors. Okay, so there are four factors of production, that is land, labor, capital, and organization. Okay, whenever you uh, think about this capital term, don't think in terms of money. Okay, think in the terms of the fixed assets that has been implemented. Okay, so in the short period market, all the four factors of production will be constant. Okay, and in the short period, we can uh, change the output by changing the variable factor, that is labor. Okay, and in the long period and in the very long period market, we can make some adjustment to the fixed factors also. Okay, and this topic has been already discussed in the previous chapter, that is law of supply, so I don't want to go in detail about. Okay, so now let us see some applications of tools of demand and supply. Okay, so we have already seen in the previous lecture video that there can be a situation called excess supply and excess demand, isn't it? And the economists, they always try to reach the situation of equilibrium, isn't it? So what happens, okay, when there is excess supply and excess demand is a matter of concern, isn't it? So just to fix this issue, or to fix this kind of situation or problem, we have some tools. Okay, so these tools are called price ceiling and the price floor. Okay, in simple language, price ceiling is also called maximum price legislation, and the price floor is also known as minimum price legislation. Okay, so to control any kind of disequilibrium situation, be it excess demand and excess supply, okay, we as economists, we always try to correct that situation. So at this point of time, government, it plays a vital role out here by controlling the prices. Okay, and this controlling of prices is known as the price fixation policy. Okay, please try to understand this concept in detail, because we have to discuss the same in the macroeconomics. Okay, aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Okay, so at that point of time, we have to deal the same situation. So let us try to understand what is maximum price legislation or price ceiling. Now, a price ceiling is actually a mandated maximum amount a seller that is allowed to charge for a product or service. Let us say that if you go in the market, okay, and you want to purchase something, you can see out there in the packet, okay, that package, okay, if you turn the package, okay, and you see the label out there, okay, you can see MRP. What does MRP stands for? MRP stands for maximum retail price, and in the bracket it will be mentioned inclusive of all the taxes, isn't it? So that MRP is your price ceiling, that is MRP, that is the maximum price in which a commodity can be sold by a seller in the market. Okay, so out here you can see it. Okay, Now, let us talk about minimum price legislation or price floor. A price floor is a situation in which the price will be controlled by the government, okay, and the lower limit will be set for the same, okay, and this setting up of the prices will be fixed by the government, okay, and this price floor is a situation, I mean the lower price level, okay, below which the sellers are not allowed to sell, okay, so this is known as the price floor. And always remember that a price floor should be higher than the equilibrium price, okay, in order to be effective in the market, okay. So let us see what are the implications of price ceiling and implications of price floor, okay. So what are the implications of price ceiling? Now this there are three types of situations, okay, we can observe out here. That is number one, effect on price and quantity. Now if the price ceiling is set above the equilibrium price, it has no effect, as you can see it out here. If the price ceiling is fixed above the equilibrium price, there will be no effect out here, okay. But if the price is fixed at this point of time, you can see that there will be excess supply, okay. So now to uh, correct this situation, what happens is that the price will fall down, okay. The price will fall down to reach this point, equilibrium, okay. Always remember that whenever there is abundance of commodities in the market, the price will fall down, okay. I mean to say that whenever there is excess supply in the market, the price will always fall down just to correct the market situation, okay. Now, but if the price ceiling is set below the equilibrium price, quantity demanded will be more than the quantity supplied. Now, if the price floor, sorry, this uh, sorry, what price ceiling? This price ceiling is fixed below this equilibrium price situation. What happens is that there will be excess demand. Okay, now you can see this point out here also. Uh, in the previous lecture video, we have discussed this situation already. Now see, okay, if the price ceiling is fixed out here somewhere, okay, there will be case of excess demand. Always remember that any point below this equilibrium situation is your excess demand, and any point above this equilibrium situation is your excess supply, okay. Now if the price ceiling is fixed above the equilibrium situation or the equilibrium price, market will correct itself, okay. The price will fall down to this point, equilibrium, okay. But when the equilibrium but when the price ceiling is fixed below the equilibrium situation, then there will be shortage of the commodities, okay, because the price is below your equilibrium price, okay. Let us say that 20 rupees is the equilibrium price of a commodity, but now the price has been floored at rupees, let us say 17 rupees, okay. Now the consumers, they will come to know that the commodity which is of rupees 20 is now being sold at rupees 17. So when the price falls, quantity demanded increases, isn't it? So that will be the situation. So to fix this price ceiling, we should remember that the price ceiling should always be fixed above the equilibrium price situation, okay. Now, allocation of available supply. Now, since the price ceiling, it doesn't allow the sellers to sell the commodities at a higher price level, okay, what they want. And this price ceiling also cause excess demand, okay. It will cause the excess demand in the market. So to uh, tackle with this situation, what happens is that these three conditions are there, okay. Now number one, first come first serve, okay. So whoever comes first, Okay, whoever will go to the shop will get the commodity, and whoever will go at the last may not get the commodity at the same price. Okay, that is at the price ceiling. Okay, so that is your situation, first come first serve basis. Okay, now let us suppose that the seller, they have limited amount of commodity. Okay, now let us try to understand with this graph. Now this is your price ceiling. Okay, and the commodities to be sold are of excess out here. Okay, they are of excess quantity. Okay, now the sellers, they cannot sell these commodities above this price. Okay, so what happens is that when there is excess supply in the market, the sellers, they have to charge different price levels from the different consumers. Okay, and the consumers are rational, always rational. Okay, in a competitive market. So what happens at this situation is that whoever will go first will be given the first preference. Okay, because here there will be the case of excess supply, as well as to tackle this situation, what happens, the price will fall down. So now as the price falls down, to correct the market situation, the producers will not supply more commodities in the market, the supply will be stopped. Okay, so with that your demand will increase and the supply of commodities will be fixed. Okay, this supply will be fixed, and in the other hand, your demand, it increases continuously. Okay, but the supply will remain fixed. Okay, please try to understand this situation. Okay, so at this point of time, what happens is that because of the increase in demand, there will be the shortage of the commodities in the market. Okay, so to uh, tackle this situation, what the sellers, they do is that whoever comes first to the shop, they will be served. Okay, now number B, allocation by sellers' preferences. Now the sellers will decide, because there is shortage of commodities in the market. Now the sellers will decide whom to sell. Okay, they will give the preferences. Okay, for example, if you know the shopkeeper, okay, you will call him. Okay, and you will just tell him that please keep this much of commodity for me. Okay, I will return from work and I will purchase the product. So the seller will keep the product for you because you two are in good terms. Okay, so now it is up to the sellers whom to sell. Okay, and ultimately there is a third condition, that is the rationing. Okay. I hope you already have the ration card with you all, isn't it? So the government uh, will decide a particular price level. Okay, and these commodities will be supplied to the consumers holding the ration cards. Okay, that is the condition of rationing. Okay, now emergence of black marketing. Now this emergence of black marketing or other means like hoarding, okay, etc., they are actually the effect of price ceiling, because the price ceiling, it fixes the price limit. Okay, and there will be the condition of excess demand. Okay, there will be the condition of excess demand. Now you may see that there is excess supply. Okay, but I'm talking about excess demand. How it is possible? It is possible because the price has been limited. Okay, the maximum price will be fixed by the government. Okay, but the sellers, they want to sell the commodity in a higher price level just to increase their profit margin. Okay, so when the price is fixed, the sellers will not be willing to sell their product in the limited price where they can earn the limited amount of profit or marginal level of profit. Okay, so at this point of time, they will supply in the market. Obviously they will make the supply, but the supply will be constant. Okay, it will not be uh, equal to your demand. So at this point of time, there will be shortage in the market. So when there is shortage in the market, there will be this black marketing of the commodities. Okay, and these commodities in black market are sold higher than the controlled price level. So since the price has been controlled by the government out here, okay, and they cannot earn the extra amount of profit, so the sellers, what they do is that they uh, enter into the black market, okay, and in the black market they sell their commodities in a higher price level, okay, higher price, okay, higher than the price ceiling, okay. I hope you have understood this point, okay. Even if you have not understood, please go through the book, okay, uh, and let me know. Now, what are the implications of price floor? Okay. Now, this is your, let us say, this is your price floor. Okay. Always remember, both these price floor and price ceiling are set above the equilibrium price situation. Okay. Normally, both these price floor and price ceiling will be set above the equilibrium situation. Now, if there is, okay, now if here we have set the price floor, then your price ceiling will be somewhere out here, okay, higher than the price floor, okay, always remember. But sometimes this price floor and the price ceiling may fall down also, okay, it may come down to your equilibrium price also, okay, that is a different market situation, but it does exist, okay. Now, what are the implications of price floor? So in case of price floor, there will be surplus of commodities. As we can see it in the previous section also, that there will be excess supply. Okay, here we can see that there is excess supply out here. Okay, there will be the excessive amount of goods. Okay, so what happens when the commodities are in abundance? Okay, when there is excess supply in the market, now the market will try to correct itself, isn't it? We have discussed this correction here also. Okay, the market will try to correct itself. Now the price will start falling down. Okay, so when the price they fall down, the consumers, sorry, the sellers are forced to sell their products such a way that sometimes they sell the commodities below the price floor. Okay, for example, you must have seen that end of season sale, okay, 50% flat discount. Okay, so these are the situations, okay, because of the excess supply in the market. Okay, and ultimately, this point number two, this the surplus is this stock will be purchased by the government at MSP, that is the minimum support price. I hope you already know, and you must have read or heard in the news channels that the there is the farmers' protest going on in India, isn't it? Just because the farm bill, okay, three laws were passed, and they are fighting for this MSP, okay, minimum support price. So the government, they purchase the surplus amount of goods and services at MSP, okay, that is known as the minimum support price. Okay, so this is your explanation. Uh, this was quite confusing for you, okay, I believe, because both price ceiling and price floor, they almost are of the same nature because they are set above the equilibrium situation, okay, but sometimes they can be they can shift their position, okay, they can be set below the equilibrium condition also, depending upon the market conditions, okay, but normally these are set above the equilibrium price situation. Okay, so please go through the situation one more time, okay, and try to understand.